Well, first off, thank y'all. I did appreciate Joe inviting me. The sheriff said, be sure to tell everybody hello. He's busy tonight as always, and so hopefully I'll do second best for him. But last time I was here, I was a lieutenant in the narcotics squad. And y'all may have heard me talk about what was going on in narcotics squads. I know Chief Welch had touched on that. They are a member of our task force called MOCONET. Kind of a little funny story about MOCONET. MOCONET is comprised of multiple agencies, including Precinct 4, we've got DPS, we've got some federal agencies, and in working with that entity for the last couple of years, it's amazing what you get to see and how well all these groups work together and how we work as force multipliers with the different agencies. So these guys just do a bang-up job with that. A little bit about me. I told y'all last time I was here, I've been in this business for quite some time. This is my 38th year in law enforcement. I started when I was 7. So actually, I started at 21 right out of college. I actually worked for UPS going to college, and that was my track. I was going to be delivering packages, and I actually did that for a couple of years. Worked my way into law enforcement through a friend. Started off at the Harris County Sheriff's Office, transitioned my way to Precinct 4 Constable in Harris County, was there for 29 years under Constable Ron Hickman. Transitioned back to the Sheriff's Office and retired there after several years as its Chief Deputy for the Sheriff's Office in Harris County. I was very fortunate. My wife wasn't quite ready for me to retire, and neither was I. Felt like I still had some things to do. And I was in my late 50s, and I thought, it's not time for me to sit in the house. So, working with people such as Duke back here, I've gone through the FBI National Academy, and I wanted to take some of that knowledge and just make sure that some of our younger guys understood what it was like many years ago, how we enforced the law, and maybe impart some of our knowledge like Joe and I have for all these years that we've been doing this. It's an incredible thing for us to continue to be involved in law enforcement. And I tell people this, my son's in law enforcement now, he works for the Sheriff's Office in Harris County, he's a crime scene investigator. Never thought in a million years that he'd be doing it. But what I impart on people is find your passion in whatever it is that you like to do. Whatever line of work that it is, whatever it is that you've done for your entire life, find your passion and stick with it. And that's what I have done. And I want to continue that passion. So I was very, very fortunate that Sheriff Henderson picked me up and brought me over. I was only retired for a day. And he asked me to come to work for him. I have absolutely no qualms. Absolutely, I want to keep doing this. So he placed me in the narcotics unit. During that time that I was there and working with the guys, we were able to be recognized as one of the number one, what we call HIDA entities, the high intensity drug trafficking areas, HIDA entities throughout the nation. We were able to go to Washington, D.C. and receive an award for the amount of narcotics we seized during that year, which was in 2017. It was a great award. The guys worked really hard to do that. Here recently, the sheriff decided he wanted to bring me over to the administrative side. So I was promoted to captain about 8 months ago, brought over to what we call admin services. And admin services covers the gambit of things, including media. I know we have some media here tonight. We also take care of the chaplain services, recruiting, human resources, and just about anything else that the sheriff wants to do. Policy, comp stat program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit here, and any of the other items that are important to the sheriff that we can impart upon the public, and how we can make our agency better and how we can work together. So in doing so, let me ask y'all a question. And I'm a resident out here in the East District. I live in the Oakhurst area, and I did receive some water, not in my home, thank goodness, but there were people right around me that did. I was an island in the storm. I had to go to work that evening, so it was, how was I going to get out, make it to work? And I bought a 4x4 truck a while back. It's pretty tall, and I was able to work my way through carefully to get into an area where I could get up on 59, come down 99, and then get on 45, and I was able to make it into Conroe. It was a tough deal. And I noticed a lot of people on the side of the roads that couldn't make it anywhere. They were stuck. And every chance that I got, I would stop and ask them, is there anything I can do for you? You know, I'm able to get through some high water. Like, no, we just want to wait for the water to recede on the feeder street so we can get to our homes. So most of them were comfortable sitting in their cars, listening to the radio, just waiting for the water to recede. I've been out here now for about 11 years. I came from the Cypress area, which began flooding many years ago. And when I worked my way up here in off the North Park area, I go like, well, we're safe and sound up here. You know, nothing's going to happen. And all of a sudden, what happens? We start getting growth, population growth, and things start happening. So here we are, and I want to say how proud I am of what Precinct 4 has done, what the chief has done, his rescued, all the things that they did during that storm, during the May 7th storm, during Harvey, and all the previous storms. You don't realize the amount of work that goes in to getting people from one location to another into a safe place. The sheriff's office here also does outstanding work, and Joe's got our back. I mean, I know out here in this district, I can call Joe anytime, and he's gonna know what needs to happen. So you got probably one of the best lieutenants I know of sitting right behind me. It's gonna take care of business. So what I like to talk about now that I'm on the administrative side is how we can work together. How we can work together better. What can law enforcement do, and what can the citizens do to become sort of the eyes and ears of law enforcement? So I live out here, I want to feel safe in my home. My wife's home cooking dinner right now. She wants to feel safe by herself while I'm away. What is it that makes you feel safe? When you go home at night, and you close and lock your doors, and you turn your lights on at night, what is it that makes you feel safe at night? Can somebody answer me that?
Cameras.
What's that?
Cameras.
Cameras, okay. What else?
A dog.
A dog? Sure. Anything else?
Seeing y'all drive around in the neighborhood.
Seeing us drive around the neighborhood. That's a good one. And I want to talk about that a little bit. It's something that we call omnipresence. Has anybody ever heard of omnipresence? Omnipresence is something that you might think about, that somebody is always watching out for us. There's some omnipresence up there. Maybe the good Lord up above is always looking out for us. He's omnipresent. We try to create omnipresence. And what that means is, you're driving down the street and you come up to a stop sign. What's going to make you stop at the stop sign? Fear, right? Fear that there might be a police officer just right around the corner, right? Right? You may have seen him there the day before, or seen her there the day before. Or you may have seen an officer in the area. What do you think is going to deter criminals? Omnipresence. The thought that they might be there. So when you go home tonight, sure, the cameras are going to help you feel safe, locking your doors, having a dog, but ultimately, who's out there watching out for you? These guys right here in the uniform.
Just a telephone call away.
Just a phone call away, exactly right. Sometimes just a holler away, because there's times in my neighborhood, well, I've seen deputies drive by, I'm like, hey, come on in and have a cup of coffee. All right? Come on and have a Coke. I know you've been working out here a while, and they work for me. Sometimes it's Precinct 4. What I'm saying there is, get to know who your officers are. We like to tell our officers, don't drive around with your windows up. Drive around with your windows down. I want to know who the officer is in my neighborhood. I want to know his name. That's old school style policing. That's Joe driving down the street. Hey Joe, how you doing? Good to see you. Come on and get a cup of coffee with us. That's part of feeling safe in the community. And is it not all of our responsibilities, not just law enforcement, to make sure that our communities are safe? Aren't we all the watchmen for our areas? Isn't it important that we become the watchmen for our areas? Because there may be one or two officers that works your neighborhood or your district at any one time, but how many eyeballs do I have out here in this audience? Force multipliers. We have a lot of people out here who want to see what's going on and want to report it. And that's what we're asking. So our number one strategic goal that the sheriff set for us when he came into office was reduce crime and the fear of crime. I think we're doing a pretty good job at it. I think officers throughout the area, Houston, Harris County, the metro area, I think do a great job. But there's almost like this dividing line, and I came from Harris County, and I'll tell you this, in my perspective, there's a difference in how we do things. There's a difference in how our district attorney does things. There's a difference in how our judges take care of business. They mean business. I don't think, in my personal perspective, that things slide or that people get away with things that they shouldn't. When we apprehend, then it's time for the judicial side to take hold, and they're like a dog with a bone. That's the way I feel things happen in Montgomery County. It's my personal opinion. That's no slight on any other county around, but just being here these 2.5 years, I see how law enforcement and the judicial process works. And they're working on your behalf and doing really, really good things. So that reducing crime and the fear of crime, is that not important to you guys? Yeah. So when you go home tonight or you leave the parking lot, you're gonna feel safe because there's people around that are watching out for you. It's important that you watch out for yourselves too, that your neighbors watch out for you. All right, so in my neighborhood, we have a little neighborhood watch people. We have a captain for the neighborhood watch on our street. And I like to call it nosy neighbor syndrome. I like the fact that somebody is keeping an eye on who's walking down the street. Hey, there's a new person walking their dog, I've never seen it, let's find out who they are. It's just part of the process in making sure that your community is safe and that you feel safe walking down the street yourself, because you know one another. So back in, let's go back a few years. Let's go back to say the 1960s and 70s. Okay, I grew up in Spring Branch, went to Spring Branch schools in the 1960s. I was able to ride my bicycle all the way from Spring Branch out to Katy on Old Katy Road and never see a car. Now you've got an 18-lane highway that goes between the Beltway, which used to be a dirt road, and Katy. So the number of people that have come into that area, the demographics that have come into the area, the change in population. What happens when we have an increase in population, generally speaking?
Increasing crime.
Generally an increase in crime, and why is that? Opportunity. There's more opportunities. So whenever there's more opportunity, there's more homes, there's more people, more opportunities, and the opportunities start multiplying. All right? So what's happening now in Montgomery County? We're seeing a huge population growth, right? This huge population growth means that we have to keep up with crime trends. So are we seeing things changing in the types of crimes that we're seeing these days from the 1970s to now the 2019, 2020 area? That's hard to even say. What? It's hard to comprehend. What kind of crimes are we seeing that has changed our perspective? What can somebody tell me some things that have changed? How about technological crimes? Stealing your credit, right? So now you gotta take care of your credit, you gotta take care of your credit cards, you gotta worry about going into gas stations and using the card swipes.
Gotta lock your doors now.
Lock your doors, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
Just to get gas.
Right. So technology crimes. What is something that's been prevalent in the last, say, 20 years that's really promoted things that probably weren't promoted back when? How about the internet? The internet. So I heard somebody say something.
Human trafficking.
Human trafficking, child pornography. Pornography is just gone out of control. And you know, we cannot stop the pornography that comes out, but we can certainly stop those predators that are targeting certain individuals. We target them through technology. There's things that we can do. I'm sure you may have heard the district attorney, Brett Ligon, talk about sex predators, child sex predators, and the number of arrests that have happened. And we continue to see it on TV. You continue to see them being arrested. You continue to see them doing the same things. And that's because we're targeting them. So sometimes when you hear that crime has gone up in an area, does that necessarily mean that crime has gone up? or maybe it's because we're targeting that area and that we're arresting more people, all right? So what I tend to talk about is not just the numbers, because numbers, if anybody ever does analytics, numbers can always be changed in different ways. What I like to talk about are the good side of the numbers. When we talk about crime on the increase, or we talk about the number of reports, reported crime, or we talk about the number of arrests being made. What I see is that the number of officers on the street, the ways that we're using technology, our real-time crime center, our Cat Guardian projects, and I'll talk about a little bit, ways that we can delve into the technology where we're able to solve more crimes. Even my son, who does crime scene work, he says, Dad, the technology is just amazing. It's hard for us to keep up with. He's been going to schools over and over and over just to keep up with the technology. So it's interesting to me that we still deal with the basics of crime, like theft, burglaries to motor vehicles, criminal mischiefs. But now we've gotten to the technological side. So what does that take for officers? It takes more training, takes more time to comprehend and try to beat those persons at their own game, persons that have been doing it for years. All right, so the reason I'm mentioning these things is because I want you to think. I want you to think about what you can do to secure not only your home, but to secure yourself from the technology-related crimes. So does anybody do Facebook here? Facebook? Okay, I don't. I don't do Facebook. There's a reason for it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't want to expose myself just another door that's open for them to look at me and appear where I'm at, where I may be going. I might be on vacation. I'm sending pictures of myself in Mexico, and they're like, Cannon's in Mexico. Yeah, let's look up his name. Let's look up on the tax rolls, which are open record. See where he lives. Yeah, let's go knock on his door. Cannon ain't answering the door. Oh, look, he's still in Mexico. Sending more pictures. All right? So let's just go around to the back of the house and maybe kick the door in. Go take whatever he's got. I just want you to think about those things on what you do and what you post on the internet, okay? I don't do Twitter. Does anybody do Twitter? I'm sure somebody does Twitter.
Life is a lot simpler without it.
What's that?
I said life is a lot simpler.
Yeah, life is a little simpler, but of course, you know, we're in this thing now that we cannot get out of. We think back to the simpler times, like I was talking about, being able to drive my bicycle all the way to Katy and never see a car. It's not going to happen anymore. So what happens is people continue to move further out and further out and further out. And this used to be further out. This used to be further out. So 11 years ago, when my wife and I moved out here to Oakhurst, this was further out. Sure, many of you have been here for 20, 30, 40 years and have seen this grow from probably pasture land, country stores, to now what you're saying, Highway 99 coming through, and you're having some development going on out here that's going to bring more people. So do you think the growth is going to continue? Absolutely it is. So something that we have to prepare for in law enforcement is future growth. And one of the things that the lieutenant talked about here was the sheriff in his infinite wisdom, when we first came into office, did what was called a workload analysis. The workload analysis showed that this area out here was one of the most growing areas, besides the woodlands, which is now pretty much landlocked. We are the ones that are growing out here. Our demographics are growing and changing. So we were able to put those additional 16 officers out here, but do you think that's going to be the end of it? No. Are we going to continue to grow? Absolutely we are. Yeah, so the way I look at it is there's positives and there's negatives to growth, all right? Because if there wasn't growth, we wouldn't be here. We grew out here. Some people grew up out here. Some people grew here. I was one of the ones that grew here. I grew up in Spring Branch, and then I migrated to Cypress. What happened to Cypress? It blew up. Now you can't go out 290 all the way out to the Hempstead without seeing houses. Then I migrated up into the Humboldt area. What happened with Humboldt? It blew up. Now what's happening out in this area? Blowing up. So, people such as myself, law enforcement, fire and rescue, our judicial system with the judge here, this courtroom is going to continue to get more and more packed. So we in law enforcement have to prepare for future growth. And we can't stop it today. We can't just say, okay, we got 16 people, and then some others went over to District 1. We've got to think years ahead and what's going to happen 5 years from now. Because we're not going to get additional personnel, additional money overnight. Where does our budget come from? Where does the county budget come from? Taxes. Taxes. Taxes are important. I pay taxes. I pay a lot of taxes. But do you think if we never increase taxes, that it's going to do us any good in our law enforcement programs, in our judicial programs? Eventually, something's going to have to give, because we can only do zero-based budgeting for so long, to the point where we're at the part where you're going to say, we need to see more officers. We got another 50,000 people in our area, we don't have enough officers. Where's that going to come from? It comes from the county coffers. So fiscal management is important. We do zero-based budgeting, which means every year we have to start from zero and justify why we need what we need. It's a great thing to see how we manage our money, how the sheriff manages the budget. That's very limited in scope. So another thing I want to talk about a little bit is, let's just say your family starts growing, all right? Some of us already have kids that are out of the house. Some of us have infants that are just coming in. What are we going to do for their future? How are we going to prepare them for what's going to happen in the year 2040? What I say is, let's impart our wisdom. Let's impart our education. Let's impart our processes of going to church, instilling the good things. Let's be a part of the community like y'all are right here, that is going to take your area and either maintain it in a positive area or turn it around. All right? Once you get to the point where you're busting at the seams and it's out of control, then we've lost control. So a little something I like to talk about, and I know some of these law enforcement personnel have heard it before, it's called the broken window theory. Has anybody heard of the broken window theory? I know Duke has. He's a law enforcement guy. The broken window theory. All right, so your community. This is your community. You own this. You live here. What happens if you start seeing an area in your community that starts going downhill? How do you start feeling about that? You start seeing windows being broken out in buildings, graffiti starting to pop up. What happens when you see that in an area? Do you want to avoid that area? Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation. You want to avoid that area. You don't want to pay attention to it. But is it not incumbent upon us to pay attention to that because it's our community? Because somebody's going to be responsible for it. Some retailer should be accountable for that. Some landowner should be responsible for making sure that his fields are mowed. Some retail owner should be responsible for getting the graffiti off the building. So the broken window theory is, if there's one broken window over here, and we just let it slide, you think there might be other broken windows that happen around that area and nobody cares about it? And then what happens? Then the area becomes deplorable. And everybody avoids that area. Then they move to a different area. But who's responsible for that? Are we not responsible? And I say we, not just in law enforcement, but we as citizens are responsible to make sure that we take care of the broken windows. We don't want those windows to start spreading like wildfire. We don't want those windows to spread from your next door neighbor's home, which might be a lease home, where runaways hang out, to other lease homes next door to that, rental properties, where nobody takes care of it, the yard's growing up, that reduces my property values. I'm gonna get on the phone and call somebody. If I have to call my sheriff, or my county judge, or my commissioner, we need to hold some people accountable for that to make sure that our windows are fixed. And I say that not in the literal sense, maybe in the literal sense, but in the sense that we have to make sure as a community that we take care of our area. So with that said, my passion here in law enforcement is to make sure my community is taken care of. If I see graffiti on the bridge, I'm on the phone. If I see windows broken in an abandoned house and nobody knows who the owner is, I'm on the phone. That's my passion. I'm taking care of my community. I encourage each and every one of you to be a part of that. To find something in your heart where you want to take control of it and not just point the finger that, oh, the law enforcement guy should be doing that, or the county judge should be doing that. Be a part of the community and say, well, let's make sure that our community stays safe. All right, so the broken window theory, very, very important. Now that theory played out in certain areas throughout the United States. And what was found was that when windows weren't fixed, the areas became deplorable. So when that happens, crime starts happening, courts start getting overburdened, the judges working much, much harder. And what I just heard from the judge here a little while ago was a pretty incredible thing, teen court. I can't tell you what a great thing that is. I've been to several of them, I've helped host some of them. And to see how these kids engage and hold their peers accountable. Holding your peers accountable, is that not difficult? Given that authority, for them to become engaged like that, helps our teenagers end up becoming more involved in our community and want to be a part of the solution, not the problem. So when my sheriff comes to me and he says, all right, Cap, we got this problem. What are you gonna do about it? Am I gonna bring him another problem? And I go and look at it, and I go, it's out of control, Sheriff. There's nothing we can do. How do you think he's gonna feel about me? Our sheriff wants solutions. So when I work with my staff, I constantly say, bring me solutions, not problems. That's part of what we do in law enforcement. We look for the solution. We look for how we can solve crimes. We look for how we can make it more difficult for people to commit crimes. We create that omnipresence, and we're having to get a little smarter with that. I mentioned something a little while ago called CompStat. Everybody heard of CompStat besides law enforcement? CompStat, short for computer statistics. So here's the good side of computers. The good side is we're able to gather data. Law enforcement is able to gather data and analyze the data and create what we call hotspot areas. All right? So that these guys that you see out in the patrol cars aren't just doing what's called random patrols. So with random patrols, so where do you think your tax dollars will be most benefited? A person doing random patrols or targeting an area that was hit maybe the night before by 6 burglaries to motor vehicles. And we got that information through the computer statistics and the workload analysis. So we're able to take our computer data, turn that into a positive, and look and see where we need to deploy our people. So I know that every morning, Joe and his supervisors give our CompStat information, which provides data from the night before, which helps us deploy our personnel into an area that may be more beneficial as opposed to the random patrols. So what I found here in Montgomery County is it's a big county. Several hundred square miles. Where does the officer patrol? Where should the officer patrol? If you were a police officer in the car riding around, where would you patrol? Where would you want to go? Would you want to go to the area where maybe something may have occurred or is about to occur, so I can solve it? Absolutely. That's what we want our officers to do. We also take that information, we spread it to the other entities. Precinct 4 Constable's Office, Precinct 3 Gable's Office, Constable Gable's Office, Department of Public Safety. So when these guys were talking about the DWI task force, are they gonna be patrolling a neighborhood to look for DWIs? Where do you think they're gonna be going?
The bars are.
Yeah, they're very good. Where the bars are, on the highways, the main thoroughfares, and that's where the most traffic is, right? So you gotta put on a little thinking cap. It's not like it used to be many, many years ago when law enforcement just did random patrols. We've gotten smarter, and we're doing things in a capacity that creates an environment for us to be more successful. So just keep your eye on the newspaper, keep your eye on the news, and what do you see? Arrest. This person was arrested, captured, apprehended, 60 years in prison, 40 years in prison. Can we do better? Yeah. We can always do better. But we can do better with your help. And that's what I'm asking, is for you to be a part of what we do. So that'll tagline me into something else. Real quick, I want to talk about our Citizens Police Academy. Has anybody gone to our Citizens Police Academy? Anybody? All right. Citizens Police Academy, it's lasts for 10 weeks. It's one night a week, 4 hours on Wednesday night, where you learn what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. You can sign up online. I don't know if we have one starting this month, but usually start about every 3 months. So we encourage you to be a part of what we do, see how we operate. It doesn't give you authority to do anything, but it gives you knowledge about how we do things, which may enlighten you into maybe some things that you might do to help protect yourself.
Is everybody go through the school system? The criminal justice at the high schools?
You know, there may be something similar through certain school districts where their police agency might do it. I don't know if New Caney ISD has a Citizens Police Academy, I'm not sure. They don't. So I think Precinct 4, that y'all have one. We have one, the Department of Public Safety has one, the FBI has one, which is an incredible thing to go through. You know, anybody been through that? So most of the major agencies have it. It's a great thing to go to, and it's, like I say, one night a week, 4 hours a night. So we ask you to be a part of what we do, because we're a part of what our community is. And we simply ask that you help us in any way possible. And I can't tell you how much that I appreciate all of your support, because you would not be here tonight if you didn't support law enforcement and all we do. So thank you for that. Thank you for allowing me to take a little bit of your time. If there's any questions I can answer, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you. I just want to say thank you very much. Question?
So maybe along the lines of the citizens helping out or whatever, they can understand and, right, I mean, so their website, they've got a good website or something to report stuff, or just call a number, or how does that work?
Well, you've got
Tip
Crime
line,
Well, you've got Crime Stoppers, number one. All right, you have the Montgomery County Crime Stoppers program. You can call directly to our dispatch with a tip and remain anonymous. You can also call, as far as narcotics go, there's drug crime tips that you can call. Or if you know your local officer, you'll reach out to your local officer. Does that answer your question about how to get a hold of somebody? There's always a way that you can call in a tip, mostly through Crime Stoppers. It'll get back to us real quick. Yes, sir.
Just how could I find out who my local officer is?
Well, you've got, do you live in East County? I'm sure you do. I'm sure Lieutenant Sam can tell you whatever community you live in. He'll tell you who patrols that area. We won't get specific on our schedules. We can't do that.
Right.
But we can certainly tell you that the officer who's primarily going to be out there, this is who your guy is.
They have numbers on their cars, you can see if it's the same car every time.
Yeah, but sometimes they change cars
Oh.
based upon if one car is down. Most of them stay in the same vehicle. I don't know how Lieutenant Sin manages his vehicles, but sometimes they may get to, that car might not be running that day. But to answer your question, there are numbers on the car, there's license plate numbers, you can say, hey, I saw this car with this license plate going down the street, can I have the deputy stop by to say hello? Or just ask the dispatcher, we just have a unit check by with me and talk. Anything else? Thank y'all again very much, thank you, Joe, appreciate you so much. Be safe.